title of this video is funny. It's called Welcome to Berlin, Mother Effer. It's another Derby Day video from Copa90. I love this channel. I love looking at their videos, man, and I'm excited to react to this one. Copa90 and their absolutely stellar storytelling, man. You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
In a city that's experienced just about everything, that hasn't seen a top flight derby in more than 40 years.
Oh shit.
Until now.
I don't know anything about Berlin football.
Derby Day's Berlin. Union versus Hertha. Their first ever meeting in the first division.
Their first ever meeting? What? This is a 5-year-old video, by the way. And Derby Days, Berlin. Okay. Beautiful city of Berlin.
Every European capital is steeped in history, but Berlin's been through more than most.
The walls of Berlin have seen an awful lot.
Wars, plagues,
Prussians,
revolutions.
fascists, communists.
Actually, several revolutions.
Berlin is the most significant city in Europe symbolically, as well as politically, as well as geographically. Nikita Khrushchev called Berlin the testicles of the West. He said, if I want to make the West scream, I squeeze on Berlin. Squeeze they did.
I think the question should be, what has Berlin not been through?
True. Berlin's been through a lot, that's for sure.
The 30 Years' War, the most brutal, wide-ranging war that Europe would see. Berlin's population was reduced by 3/4.
And then there was the Prussian era, which was an age of expansion, which of course means loads and loads of wars.
Prussia was pretty heavy-handed when it came to war.
Berlin became the capital of Prussia and eventually the capital of the German Empire. Borussia Dortmund, the term Borussia, that comes from Prussia.
The Napoleonic
I didn't know
Wars
that.
at the beginning of the 1800s. He marched into Berlin in 1805, taking the Quadriga, the statue on top of the Brandenburg Gate, with him back to Paris.
And
They
don't
took
even
it
get me
with
started
him?
on what Berlin has been through during the 20th century.
No, we got wars to go yet.
There's more wars?
Oh yeah,
How many wars has this place seen?
fucking loads. The First World War, the Second World War. Berlin had a very significant role in World War II. This was the nerve centre of fascist Germany. And then at the end, you've got the Cold War running from the end of the Second World War until the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Every European capital is a thriving hub of arts and culture, but Berlin might just be the cultural hub of the world.
Art, Cubism, Dadaism particularly.
Music,
Techno was very important to Berlin. It was also a punk rock town.
culture,
The Berliner Ensemble was one of the greatest theatres in the world. The Berliner Philharmonie.
culture, like
The first foreign language versions of Mozart's great Italian operas were done in German at Friedrich II's Opera House in the heart of Berlin.
and everything that all comes together.
There's so much that was like an exposition dump in a Michael Bay movie. There were so many things that were just said right there. I actually really don't know too much about German, and I guess in this case specifically Berlin culture, outside of what I know about like I guess I don't really know much about the culture of Germany, the history of Berlin, all of this. I don't know really much about it outside of what I've studied for World War II, like things. I took like some war classes in college. Outside of college, I've studied a lot about World War II and stuff. I don't really know that much, actually, now that I really think about it. I do know about the German Donner, which is a like one of the dishes that are in Germany. Kind of like, I forgot what it looks like. Some people have said it's sort of like similar to a taco in a way, right? Or something like that, but... yeah, I don't actually know that much about German culture, so this is going to be really interesting. I wonder how much of it's going to be football and most of it's going to be cultural stuff. I'm not mad at it, I'm just curious, but do you guys think Berlin is generally like one of the biggest like cultural hearts of the world? Let me know.
It's a party city.
Berlin invented hard partying.
They've lived under fascists, they've lived under communists. They've been told what to do an awful lot in this town. When they get their brief moments of freedom, they will party in it.
Welcome to Berlin, motherfucker!
The first German city to have 24-hour alcohol licensing laws. There's a bar in every corner.
You have clubs where they sell toothpaste and toothbrushes and soap and everything.
Why?
Because you don't want to go home.
The headline
That's
slot of the
insane.
headline isn't until 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. It's just warming up.
I heard your clubs close at 3. That's when we start. 48 hours, 72 hours, no matter how long you can stand. What's your stamina, London man?
Every European capital has played
London, man.
host to migrant communities from all over the world who have helped shape the identity of those cities today. But again, none more so than Berlin.
Immigration in Berlin goes back all the way to the mid-1600s.
Everybody is coming here, everybody want to be here.
The whole world has been making their home in Berlin ever since.
People moving from other cities to come here.
French Huguenots, Austrian Jewish populations,
American, French, and the Russian.
Catholic Silesians.
All the different countries like Spain and everything.
There's a Kurdish community, there's a Turkish community, there's Lebanese, there's Iraqi, West African, Vietnamese, there's fucking everybody.
To live in that exciting, amazing city.
Everything in Berlin largely comes from its migratory history.
They all influence the city with their style, culture, and everything.
Look at the food. The doner kebab was invented in Berlin.
What, not Turkey?
No, it was invented in West Berlin by Turkish immigrants. Currywurst was invented because British soldiers had brought curry powder and Worcester sauce on the black market. The bouletta, the famous Berlin meatball, comes from the French Huguenots. That's why it's got a French name. You look at the explosion of techno culture. Hard Wax Records in Kreuzberg found these young guys making techno in Detroit. They brought them over.
That's
Berlin is
insane.
a very non-judgmental city. You really can be what you like in Berlin.
You got the answer. You can be anything you want to be.
It's got some weird people. You've got to remember the people in Berlin who are looked at in the streets and pointed at are the guys wearing suits. The naked guy walking along the streets in Berlin is the one that nobody notices.
But whilst almost every European capital plays host to at least one of their country's biggest, best, or even more recognizable football clubs, Berlin, well, that's where Berlin doesn't quite follow suit.
I mean, there were a couple of years when Berlin did not even have any team in the top flight.
The capital didn't have a team in the top flight of Germany.
Yeah.
I don't think I can think of any European country in the world that hasn't had a team in the capital in the top flight.
I think it was rather unique.
And so with no major titles or even cups to the city's name in decades, as well as very rare appearances in Europe in that time, the reality is that Berlin doesn't just lag behind the big two,
Munich is way smaller than Berlin, Dortmund is way smaller than Berlin.
but many other clubs from much smaller German cities that are dwarfed by the capital's might.
Every city in Germany is way smaller than Berlin. And they're tiny towns who've won the league over the years. In 04, Bremen were champions.
Stuttgart is not a very big city, and they won the league 12 years ago.
In 09,
Fucking Wolfsburg won the league.
and Wolfsburg is basically a VW plant and a couple of houses around it.
And it's perhaps because of this that many in Germany don't really consider Berlin as a footballing city.
The other way other football fans around Germany refer to Berlin is when it comes to the cup final, because the cup final takes place here.
But scratch the surface here and it really doesn't take long to realize that Berlin, well, Berlin lives for this game.
So their cup final always takes place in Berlin? Or is that like an industry standard now that I think about it? Do most cup finals for like your domestic cups or anything always take place in the capital of a European or, you know, South American country? Or any country really outside of the USA? Like, how does that work? I'm curious about that. I actually never even thought about that being a thing now that they brought it up. But yeah, I'm curious. How does that work? Is it always like that?
For this game, and despite being a city with so much on offer, it's still football from east to west that runs this city. So is it true when people say Berlin doesn't have a football scene?
Yeah, I think it's true. It's true. Berlin doesn't have a football scene. It has several football scenes.
Several football scenes.
Several football scenes.
People might just not take notice of it, but if you look a little bit deeper, you see it pretty much everywhere.
Berlin's football culture is as rich and deep as every other facet of culture in this city.
Do you see it quite a lot? Graffitis, stickers, which is obviously a big thing.
Yes, like I said, Berlin was an early football hotbed. I mean,
that they gave 24 of the 86 founding teams to the DFB.
Yeah.
A huge amount.
If you define culture being about success and being about titles and being about numbers and industry, fuck off. Then you have to go to Bayern Munich or you have to go to Borussia Dortmund. But if you want to see real culture, real football culture, this is the place to be.
In fact, Berlin has more football clubs than any other city in Germany. And whilst they may not have that many trophies in their cabinets, each and every club celebrates and represents a different sect of this incredible city.
They're not defined by their success, but by the people they represent, whether it's international communities who have made their homes here.
There's Bosnian clubs, there's Serbian clubs, there's Turkish clubs.
Turkeyspor from Kreuzberg, they had big crowds, seen as the representatives of the Turkish community. Turkeyspor games were shown live on television in Turkey.
There's a Jewish club.
Maccabi Berlin.
They play west of the city center. They were founded in the 1970s, although their roots go as far back as the 1800s.
Whether it's political ideologies who have made their homes here.
There's SV Babelsberg 03.
From just outside of Potsdam, on the very edges of Berlin. They're defined by their left-wing politics. The stadium is even named after one of Berlin's greatest communist revolutionaries.
So it's interesting reading this or hearing about this, knowing like some of the previous documentaries we watched. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head that talked about it might have been the one with Zapelli, or no, it was JJ Okocha. He went to Germany. I don't remember which club he played for off the top of my head though. They kind of talked about like there was a lot of racism that he had to deal with there. But it is interesting seeing that Berlin has this really rich like cultural diversity and stuff, and seeing how much of it has shaped kind of like a little bit of everything. Obviously, JJ Okocha's time was it was a little bit different, you know. That was way back in the, well, no, that wasn't really way back in the day. It was far enough though in the past, that's for sure. But this is very, very interesting to learn about how many different cultures are shaping what Berlin really is as a city. Now, would you say that Berlin is probably the most diverse city probably in Germany, and probably the most accepting of really any and everybody out of any of the other German cities and whatnot? Let me know.
BFC Dynamo Berlin.
From northeast Berlin, the most successful football club in the history of East Germany, known as the Stasi Club. This is not entirely fair, though they certainly were the favoured club of Erich Mielke, the head of the Stasi. There are fans there with right-wing political opinions, but I think to call them the majority would be a mistake. You can even see the weirdness of Berlin inherent within its football clubs.
Tasmania Berlin.
From Neukölln in former West Berlin are defined by the most catastrophically poor season in the history of top-flight German football.
There's Victoria Berlin.
Traditionally from southwest Berlin, were founded in the 1880s. They were 3 times German champions. Blau-Weiß Berlin from former West Berlin. Their first game in the Bundesliga in front of 80,000 people at the Olympiastadion.
And of course there's Tennis Borussia Berlin, also known as TB.
A former Bundesliga club, West Berlin footballing powerhouse, defined by financial collapse after the 1990s and in the modern era by their left-wing politics.
You see, here in Berlin, you really get the sense that whilst, yes, everyone would like to win, it's not titles they crave from the game here, but instead representation of who they are, where they're from, or what they're about.
Where you're
I'm laughing at the people looking at them.
What you represent, what you stand for, what your political views are, everything.
Football is a means of Berliners' expression of their own individual community.
Who are you and who is the club for you?
Football represents Berlin in so many ways, more than almost anything else, apart from possibly its music.
Wow.
And even if the clubs here really wanted to win, the city of Berlin itself poses its own challenges to any ambitious football club. Firstly, there's the city's poor economy.
I just want to say I love the way he does these documentaries. Fearless, around a ton of people, has no shame. He shows the rawness of kind of like what's around him, you know? It's very authentic. This is very authentic storytelling. I absolutely love the way Eli does these things.
Club. Firstly, there's the city's poor economy.
Yeah, it's to do with the economy, of course.
The lack of infrastructure, lack of opportunity to a certain extent.
The East German economy is considerably weaker, even 30 years after the wall came down.
A lot of people think, oh, Berlin, you know, which must be like London, so there must be lots of money there. No, it isn't. You know, the city is poor.
A former mayor of Berlin, Klaus Wowereit, I think he captured the spirit of the city perfectly with this quote.
Arm aber sexy.
In English, it would be poor but sexy. And that kind of encapsulates the spirit of Berliners.
Berlin doesn't have as much money as, say, Munich or...
No.
We don't really have a lot of money.
Berlin is not the financial powerhouse of Germany.
We don't really have a lot of resources.
Berlin is not the industrial powerhouse of Germany.
We're not that pretty, we're not that shiny.
And it's certainly not the football powerhouse of Germany.
Wow.
But we don't want to. We don't need to. We make our money different.
Then there's the never-ending chaotic nature of the city.
It is a chaotic city, and therefore the clubs are chaotic. If you look at things that are happening politically in Berlin, I mean, look at the airport that's supposed to have been built.
You can tell by our super.
I watched a video about that actually. Oh man. Oh, who was that from? Oh man, I watched a video a few months ago about that Berlin airport that never actually finished construction. This is a 5-year-old video too, by the way, and they were talking about that. I think about maybe, I think that video was from last year, maybe. I think it was still under construction or something like that. I don't remember. I have to double check and find out which channel that was from. But I do remember watching a video on that.
The clubs are chaotic. If you look at things that are happening politically in Berlin, I mean, look at the airport that's supposed to have been built.
You can tell by our super airport we got.
The rebuilding of the airport at Schönefeld, which is a complete catastrophe.
You know, it's supposed to be open 10 years ago, still not open.
An embarrassment for the people of Berlin. Meanwhile, the rest of Germany is saying, see, we told you about the Berliners.
Berlin is a lot of things, but it's not polished. Well, there's a stereotype about Germany being very orderly, everything going according to plan, and punctual and clean.
Efficiency, you are talking about punctuality. Berlin does not work in that way.
It's so chaotic, it's so loud. Yeah, it's probably because you're used to your structure and your little tiny traffics and everything is so well behaved and the thing. Fuck that. Not in Berlin.
This politician in the 80s, he said, Paris is always Paris, Berlin is never Berlin.
Berlin is completely bonkers.
This idea of constant flux, constant change, you know, that we don't have a fixed identity. For me, as a visitor to London, I always know what to expect. You know, I've got certain things there. When I go to Paris, it's the same thing.
Every train station looks different. Every train station looks different. Every train station
it's got
has
character.
Its own style, the lettering of the name of the train station, the tiles, the walls. From district to district, every time you turn a corner, there's areas that look like their own small little villages. Depending on who's living there and who had an influence there. It's completely different. It looks different, it smells different, it sounds different.
Berlin is always changing. We had a wall here in the middle.
Yeah.
Before that, this used to be the Nazi headquarters. Before that, this was one of the places of cabaret culture and crazy stuff in the 20s. So always shifting and changing. And
fucked up because you have construction everywhere. Everything is building up. So
yeah.
In Berlin, basically everybody has their own plan.
Yep.
Berlin, you see, everything is doing their own thing. In chaos, there is strategy sometimes.
But despite Berlin boasting so many clubs with so much character and so much history, just like the city's lack of success, today at least, with the odd exception, there's also a lack of rivalry between the capital clubs.
Well, there are rivalries, don't get me wrong, but I think at the end of the day, there's almost a sense of camaraderie amongst Berlin football fans because they see that they've all been through the same struggles. They've all have this passion for expressing themselves, of wanting to say who they are within this huge city.
But that might just be changing thanks to the two biggest teams in the city today.
Do you think that Berlin, now this is an older video again, do you think Berlin has a bit of an identity crisis, or do you think it's more of like just a cultural hub really, where just about anything can kind of happen? Like it's very clearly a very diverse place, very artistic in a way. It's got a lot of character, you know, in a lot of different ways. Is that just like kind of like, yeah, that, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Do you think it has an identity crisis, or do you think it's better being more of a unique, united, also cultural hub? It also makes sense that you know, that there is camaraderie among footballing fans. At its core, it makes sense that there is this like camaraderie though. Like he said, you know, everybody's gone through the same exact hardship, and I've always wondered that, you know, like, are pretty much all cities when it comes to their derbies like, you know, like what we saw with Celtic versus Rangers, where it's, you know, more chaotic and generally more hateful? It doesn't seem like it's like that everywhere though, apparently. You know, like there's a rivalry, but it isn't as well. We'll have to wait and see. Actually, I'm saying things without having fully watched the video, so let's keep going.
Hertha BSC, based in the West,
Hertha Berlin are the biggest club in Berlin in terms of numbers, in terms of success.
Oh my God.
We are the Berlin club. We are the only Berlin club. We have a song that even says it.
We're the biggest city with the biggest club.
They are the major football club in the capital city of Europe's wealthiest country.
And Union Berlin in the east.
It is seen not only as being a football club, it is seen as being a fundamental part of their community.
So we're red and white. We're from a suburb called Köpenick.
Köpenick is almost like a little town on the fringes of southeast Berlin. It's beautiful.
Are you the team of the city then, or you?
Nah, I don't think Union's like, we're the team of the city.
It's not our goal to represent all of Berlin.
We're a team in the city, we're an important part of the city, but we're not the team.
It's not our mission to be like the representative of the whole city.
I like
Two
that.
clubs with fascinating identities.
Hertha Berlin are known as die alte Dame or die alte Tante. So it's the old lady.
The old lady.
It's because of their name. Because Hertha is like a really old traditional German name. It's like being called, I don't know, Elizabeth.
Around here there used to be a lot of iron workers, so we are the Iron Union.
Eisen, Berlin, they're made of iron.
So you got two brothers who want to start a football club in here in Berlin.
Berlin has loads and loads of lakes.
This is 1892. Now this is a time when steamboats were like the thing, you know, they didn't know what to name it, so the steamboat comes down the river.
The steamship was called Hertha.
So they named it after that. So Hertha and Berliner Sports Club merged. Hertha BSC was created out of it.
So you just say, ah, oh, hey.
Ha ho hey.
Two sides with incredibly unique stadiums.
I mean, both stadiums are sort of symbols for the club.
It's two different worlds, basically. I mean, the Olympiastadion is opulent, it's huge, it's brutal. Architecturally speaking, it's incredible, it's epic.
I've never seen a stadium like that. You walk in, you feel like you're entering a coliseum due to the history that's so evident. It's the place where Jesse Owens won gold.
Yeah.
You've had World Cup finals there.
Yeah.
Champions League finals there. Famous Zidane headbutt.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the DFB Pokal finals played there every year.
Union, get
Die alte Försterei.
if you haven't been there, go there. It's fantastic.
It's literally surrounded by forest.
As you can tell,
Surrounded
we're
by
surrounded
forest?
by trees.
Yeah.
Literally surrounded by a forest.
That's the stadium, and that's the forest.
No, it's right in the woods.
It literally means a stadium at the old forest ranger's house.
Completely surrounded by a forest, so whenever you walk, this one station we always walk from
Yeah, this
to get
is-
here, you have to walk through the forest to get to the stadium. It often smells like pee, but you know.
This is kind of unique, really. But I honestly really never paid too much of attention to the surrounding areas of a stadium. But that's a good point. Yeah, there's a lot of forestry around here.
It's almost intimate, like it's a small, cute, British-style stadium, no running tracks.
Three sides of the stadium is all standard.
Yeah.
I've only just realized that.
Yeah.
They're the only seats.
The fans are so close to the pitch, and the atmosphere is the better for it.
22,000 total capacity, 18,000 standing. You don't have that in England. You don't even have that in most other bigger stadiums in Germany.
So 3/4 of the stadium has to stand. They don't have a choice.
No, they want to. They want to.
Good
Two
point.
teams
Yep,
with
they want
incredible
to.
support.
They're both basically in the top 15 of clubs with the most members in Germany. And
Look
Union,
at
I think, are
that.
15th and Hertha are 13th.
Hertha has fans in every single district in Berlin. The players train in every single district of Berlin. They will advertise, they'll say, okay, well, we're training at Pankow, or we're training in Marzahn, training wherever. And they invite kids along, and they can meet the players, and that's just part of what Hertha does.
You already mentioned that we built a stadium on our own.
They needed to redevelop the stadium to be fit for the new third division.
But the club never had any money, not much money, so...
Yeah, but 140,000 hours of unpaid labour from fans.
Yeah.
They were literally mixing the concrete, laying the foundations.
I know personally a number of people who've given, you know, like, I don't know, the equivalent like several months worth of free labour.
I have never seen anything like it.
Two sides who boast not so much successful histories, but more chaotic ones befitting of Berlin.
Especially with Hertha and even Union last season, where they get to a certain point, you're like, oh my God, things are going so well, and then all of a sudden it's just straight down, and you're like, what's the point in that?
Union had their fair share of chaos. They were supposed to go up from the third division into the second, and they weren't allowed because they had forged bank documents.
What about Hertha?
Oh, How much time do you got?
Almost typical Berlin, typical Hertha in the 60s and 70s. The treasurer was the owner of a funeral parlor. They were going to sell more tickets than they told the authorities. But of course those tickets had to come from somewhere, so they printed them secretly and stuck them in the coffins, you know. Yes, tax evasion.
To a funeral parlor. That's brilliant. And two sides who aren't that focused on winning.
We don't give a fuck about winning.
We're the biggest city with the biggest club. Of course we want to win, but we don't need no trophies. We got our heart, we got our mind, we got our city, we got our club.
Fuck titles! We don't give a fuck about titles. Exactly what I told you before. We come to the stadium because we have our friends here, we have our families here.
Like I got my Hertha tattoo when we went down in the second league, just to show everybody how I support my club. I don't get it when we turn champions. Fuck y'all. I'm doing it when we're going down to make a statement that I'm down with my club.
So wait, I gotta ask you guys, what do you guys prefer? Do you prefer, well, I guess it's not really preference, it's just culture. It's just really of a culture thing. But do you guys, for the lot of you that do come from, you know, countries, cities where your club really hasn't won much, do you share the sentiment that you don't really care about winning, you care more about the heart of the club? Or would you like to at some point or another see like your club win something? I'm thinking about like the Real Betis, the Real Betis video that we watched the other day from Copa90 also, and how they kind of ended a very long drought, trophyless drought, you know, and they kind of had like a similar sentiment, you know. At the end of the day, you're born, raised, and you die as a Real Betis fan. But whatever you win kind of didn't really matter. It's just about the culture, the people, everything like that, right? There seems to be a sentiment among a lot of footballing fans. I keep saying footballing. This seems to be a sentiment about there seems to be a sentiment common with a lot of football fans. So, hey, maybe that just really is how it is pretty much everywhere. That makes sense, though. I mean, it's about the passion, baby. It's about the passion, the culture, the history of your club, and what it means to your people. That's pretty much how it is, it seems, well, pretty much everywhere.
My club.
And people will tell us, man, fucking, you lost. We're like, fuck it, man, we did a great job. I love my team.
When we were 18th and at the beginning of the season, we were like, so what? Chilled out, man. We're gonna rock this shit anyway.
We know how to lose and we know how to get back on our feet.
Because we are Berlin. Fuck Munich. You know, that's how we walk into Munich. We say, bow down, the main city is there.
But most importantly, two sides who don't so much represent politics of left or right or an ethnic heritage, but in the modern age at least, have become the representatives of the east and west of the city. Something that with Berlin's history means arguably more than most.
What's going on in that picture in the background?
Divided a world.
You see, despite all the horrors Berlin's endured over the centuries, it seems to be the Cold War and times of the German divide with the infamous wall or Mauer that has left the most visible and non-visible scars on the city today.
In terms of the mindset of the modern Berlin, I think the Cold War is probably the most significant.
You see, after their significant role in helping to defeat the Nazis.
By April 1945, there are 1 million Red Army troops in a circle around Berlin, and they liberate Berlin from the fascists.
The Soviets remained in a large part of the east of the country, eventually integrating it into the Soviet bloc.
Within the next 4 years, Germany itself would be divided into two official states, into Communist East Germany and to Capitalist West Germany.
Berlin found itself smack bang in the middle of this newly formed communist country, but an agreement was made that half the city would remain as an enclave of West Germany.
West Berlin was a small island within East Germany.
So West Berlin was completely surrounded by East Germany?
Yeah.
However, this divide saw many in the east flee over to the west.
By 1961, it's thought that over 3 million people left East Germany.
They call it the brain drain or something?
Exactly. They were losing engineers, they were losing teachers, they were losing doctors. The communist authorities could not accept losing this many people.
And so by 1961, these walls were put up all around the city by those in charge of the east to make sure they didn't lose any more citizens to the west.
If you talk to a German and you mention the wall, they know which wall you're talking about. You're talking about the Berlin Wall.
Die Mauer.
Die Mauer.
You didn't get close to getting over the Berlin Wall.
How traumatic was that time?
Hugely traumatic. I mean, people died trying to cross the wall.
It was impassable. The Berlin Wall was 2 walls by that point.
Which is called the death strip. And they had barbed wire.
It had tripwires.
They had snipers.
It had an anti-truck barrier. It was lit up 24 hours a day. There was attack dogs. There were lookout towers every 100 to 150 meters.
And so divided by this impenetrable wall, the people of East and West Berlin lived completely different lives for decades.
Life was very significantly different on both sides of the divided Berlin. Fundamentally, the biggest difference of all was that if you lived in communist East Berlin, you were not allowed to enter West Berlin.
This is honestly wild because, you know, the Berlin Wall was definitely something that I did learn in school, and, you know, through my various studies of World War II and post-World War II, bits of the Cold War and so forth. We learned about the Berlin Wall. And then obviously East and West Germany be, you know, those two different divided, you know, halves of Germany. But it really never clicked in my head where Berlin was actually situated within Germany. Like, I just never had once thought this is where Berlin is within Germany, but I did know about, like I said, the history of the Berlin Wall and stuff. But that's crazy to me that you have East and West Berlin, but Berlin's dead center in Eastern Germany. That's insane, bro. That's crazy. I'm generally thinking like that divide is also along the divide of West and East Germany. So this is really, really cool to know. It gives a little bit more insight on how insane this was in that time.
If you lived in West Berlin, you could enter communist East Berlin. You could get a visa and you could go and visit the city.
Ethnically, they weren't different.
No.
I guess religiously, they weren't different.
No.
So did they even have a divide, or it sounds like the divide just came up because two different governments post World War II just put up a wall and said, you're different.
Exactly. But then things would slowly change.
In the late 1980s, large parts of East Berlin were crumbling.
Meanwhile, West Berlin was artificially wealthy. There was a photograph taken from space, from the International Space Station at Berlin at night, and you could spot the divide because East Berlin still had largely gas street lighting, as opposed to West Berlin, which had largely electric street lighting, which obviously burns at a different color.
I'm sorry, this is actually just so interesting to me from a city planning perspective. I actually had never considered that. Well, I know that lights burn differently, but I'd actually never considered why. So a gas burn is this yellow color, and this white burn is or this white color is electric burning, or electric powered lighting systems. Also, can I just say it's insane to think we had a space station in the 1980s? Like, I know we've been a pretty we've been really on the climb with technology for the last like 50, 60, 70 years, but it's even insane to think we had these images in the 80s. Isn't that kind of nuts when you really think about it, man? Technology has advanced so fast since World War II when you really think about it. We went from those little pathetic planes before World War I to having what we now have, you know? Like I said, it's been 100 years, so it makes sense that things are getting streamlined. But during the 1900s, man, it's just insane to see how fast technology had accelerated between the end of the war in 1945 up to the 1980s. That shit is nuts to me, bro. This video really is more of a cultural video, which I actually like. I love learning about different cultures and how people view them within said culture, you know? Whether, you know, regardless of whatever opinions I may or may not have, I am a person who enjoys seeing perspective, even if I don't agree with something, I don't agree with the way something is done. I love learning perspective because I think that's just a key part of being human. Seeing different perspectives, you don't have to agree with everything, but it's just interesting to learn about, you know?
Different color.
The indoctrination from those in charge didn't help either.
If you'd been believing the official propaganda, everything was good in your half of the city, everything was terrible on the other half of the city.
I grew up considering them on the other side to be, let's say, the class enemy in a Cold War.
But by the late 80s, rebellion, dissent, and even international pressure had really escalated against the East.
Oh, it was massive dissent, yeah.
Churches of East Germany were becoming increasingly the home of political dissidents. Marches around the churches of major East German cities like Dresden, Leipzig, and East Berlin. They start growing in numbers.
On November 4th, you had the biggest demonstration against the regime in East Berlin, which was, I don't know, 500,000 people or something like that.
Damn! And then in November of 1989, things finally gave way.
because of growing dissent, because of pressure from the Soviet Union, from the Western Allies, from their own people. East Germany, they knew they had to do something by announcing a relaxation in the travel restrictions, but they won't say when. They won't say when it's going to happen. But the man giving the press conference the next day wasn't a part of the decision-making process.
Someone asked him,
"Excuse me, Herr Schabowski, you're going to open up the Berlin Wall?" And he says, "Yeah."
and some journalist asked him,
when?
I think he cocked it up, basically. He just read something and went like, oh, as far as I can see, it means...
He genuinely go,
Immediately.
People are watching television, they see that the border will open up today, they start heading towards the checkpoints. There is now no leadership from the top whatsoever. The border guards don't know what to do. They have a choice, simple, open the gates or open fire. At 11 o'clock that night, they opened up the gates, and that was the fall of the Berlin Wall.
But as you can imagine, after nearly 40 years of concrete separation, the literal fall of the wall wasn't going to mean that the divide completely disappeared overnight.
Die Mauer in deinem Kopf.
Die Mauer im Kopf, meaning, well, the literal wall has collapsed. There's, the wall came down. But there's still, people still think in East and West. Is he from the East or is he from the West?
You've got many people who had never visited the West who would still never visit the West. You've got many people who had never visited the East who would still never visit the East. It was still a divided city in many ways.
There was a lot of alienation between East and West after decades of separation, and there were a lot of preconceptions.
Wow. So an Aussie is someone from former East Berlin, a Vessi is someone from former West Berlin.
Is it derogatory?
Is it Aussie?
Maybe slightly.
It can be used as an insult.
East Germans were made fun of because they were isolated from the rest of the world.
I would not say there is necessarily animosity.
This running joke that still exists within Germany, that East Germans don't know what a banana is.
But there are stereotypes that still remain.
Is that as commonplace today?
I was going to say no, but then
The decades of patronizing views and being looked down upon by West Germans has created this siege mentality.
I moved in May to a place called Kaulsdorf, not far from Köpenick, a very East German neighborhood. And we started chatting with our neighbor, a very elderly woman. And at one point she said, oh, by the way, you better not let on that you're from the West. And we went, oh, what?
In fact, you often see this mentality with fans of clubs from East Germany. Dynamo Dresden, for example, they sing
Ostdeutschland.
East Germany.
Yes, they sing it really passionately.
They sing it passionately, they jump, and it's really intimidating.
This is insane, bro.
The idea behind this is we would, instead of being made fun of, we'd rather be feared.
Now at this point, you've got the perfect ingredients for the ultimate rivalry. I mean, you're talking two clubs on two completely opposite sides of one of the most infamous city divides in modern history. But the reality is very different.
Yeah, it's
Traditionally, there was a long history of friendship between Hertha and Union.
Naja, wir haben ja auch so eine Fanfreundschaft, Hertha Union-Freunde. Das ist so eine Gruppe mit 2000 Leute und die verstehen sich, wir treffen uns, es gibt auch eine Facebook-Gruppe.
You see, during the times of the German divide, Hertha and Union weren't rivals, but instead bonded over their desire to see the fall of the wall and a reunited Berlin.
They called themselves Freunde hinterm Stacheldraht, friends behind barbed wire.
Und bei mir ist es so, ich habe so 25 D-Mark Eintritt bezahlt, bin in den Osten rübergefahren und da hieß es Hertha und Union. Da waren wir eine Freundschaft. Es gab eine richtige Fanfreundschaft.
And the Union fans would be wearing Hertha BSC patches on their cut-off sleeve denim jacket.
This might be the derby everyone's talking about between Union and Hertha, but what many people might not realize is that these two clubs don't really consider themselves rivals. Union's traditional rivals probably are BFC Dynamo.
Why do you hate Union so much?
It's a bit like asking someone who supports West Ham, why do you hate Millwall? You know, it's the old East Berlin football rivalry.
And Hertha, depending on who you ask, it might be TB, it might be Tasmania, it might even be Schalke, if you ask some. Yeah.
Why Schalke?
I don't know. I don't even know the story anymore. I just know all the Hertha fans don't like Schalke. So it's okay, I don't like Schalke too.
And whilst yesterday Hertha are located in the western neighbourhood of Charlottenburg, for most of their existence, they've actually spent it in far more central neighbourhoods, like here in Gesundbrunnen.
In terms of the city, they used to be, it's more like the north. Their famous ground, the Plumpe, used to be there, which eventually was too small for Bundesliga football.
And most Hertha fans, well, as pretty as it is, they don't really want to play at the Olympiastadion either.
They are now in Charlottenburg, but they are not from Charlottenburg. It's not their home, you know? And the ground is really far outside. You know, it's about, I don't know, from here, but about 50 minutes by train.
They get good crowd. You know, an average of 45,000 isn't a bad crowd, but it looks so much less than a stadium of 75,000.
You know, the sound just doesn't carry.
That's crazy, but 40,000, 50,000 is such a big number. It's bigger than most probably Premier League crowds.
Yeah, they are well supported.
That's bigger than Chelsea.
They would be a lot better off than they are now with their own ground, let's say 50,000. It would always be full, and they're trying to build one.
And after the wall came down, things got even friendlier, literally.
10 months after the fall of the Berlin Wall, they played a friendly at the Olympiastadion.
Because they wanted to commemorate like the occasion of reunification and of the shared suffering during that time.
It was just 5 marks to get in. Great atmosphere, everybody loved each other.
So a meeting of theirs was actually used for a positive thing.
Exactly.
Divisive.
Exactly. It was played in the Olympiastadion. It was a huge party.
I think there was 80.
I gotta say, man, this is arguably the most unique representation of cultural importance to football. I say that because in most videos that we've watched, we've always seen a lot of like different divisions and stuff as like a fight against different parts of the government or different halves of like, you know, a country or something. I'm trying to figure out the proper way to word that, right? But this quite truly, like these teams in the traditional sense are rivals, but the fact that they're brought together because of all the shared, you know, traumatic past of Berlin as a whole, and, you know, Germany, mainly Berlin, of course, but the fact that all of their shared like past and troubles brought both of these clubs like technically together that's just such an interesting that it's just interesting. It's different from a lot of the other things that we've watched and reacted to. Like, I think back to some of the other videos we've watched where there was these two cultural divisions between two different clubs or even different religious beliefs. In the case of like the Celtic and the Rangers video that we watched, also from Copa90 as well. Actually, no, that wasn't from Copa90. I'm sorry. We've seen how people use these clubs to kind of fight against other clubs and the beliefs of other clubs and whatever. And a lot of these derbies are genuinely like hardcore rivalry matches between two different ideologies. But this is generally one of the first cases, at least from what I've seen so far, where two separate clubs divided by the same level of chaos and trauma, being the Berlin Wall, while they still dislike each other in the rivalry sense, they come together because it's a unification of everybody from Berlin. It brings everybody that have shared the same troubles together. That is just such a unique thing that I've seen so far in all of the reactions I've done to football stuff, man. That's so cool.
Huge party.
I think there was 80,000 there.
Everybody enjoyed it. Everyone shared this moment together.
From that match, however, the two occupied completely different worlds of the German football pyramid.
At the turn of the century, Hertha was playing in the Champions League while Union was in the 4th division, Regionalliga, which is not even a professional division.
A competitive derby wasn't any closer by the end of the decade either, as in the 08-09 season, Union were playing down in the 3rd division, whilst Hertha
were 2 weeks away from winning the league.
And so the possibility of a competitive Berlin derby between Die Eisernen and Die Alte Dame seemed as far away as ever.
I mean, Berliners are known for being dreamers, but back then I don't think even they would have gone as far as to say that the two clubs would ever meet in a competitive derby in the league.
But then, in typical Berlin style, the next season saw Hertha go down bottom of the table. Waiting for them in the 2nd division was none other than Union Berlin. And so it was
so
the
cool.
2010-2011 season that saw Hertha and Union meet competitively for the very first time. What was the vibe
Alright,
like
that's
that whole
sick.
first ever derby in such a historic city?
Honestly, awkward.
It was kind of a strange occasion. It was kind of tense. No one really knew what this meant.
Yeah, nobody really knew what to make of it exactly.
No one really knew if this was supposed to be a celebration of Berlin or if it was the beginning of a beautiful hatred.
The first, a 1-1 draw here at Union, saw no one really leave with a grudge. But the second occasion, this time at Hertha's Olympiastadion, may have shifted the mood. due to the result.
Regarded as one of the most legendary moments in modern Union history.
Union won the match 2-1, and not just won it, they won it by a 25-yard free kick from their club legend, Thorsten Matuschka.
The roof came off the Olympic Stadium. In the corner where all the Unioner were, suddenly flares come out, they were burning, raining down upon the fans below. I think that was the first moment where you could say this is starting to become a proper derby.
However, that season saw Hertha BSC go straight back up to the Bundesliga before coming straight back down.
Which meant there would be 2 more derbies.
That season again saw 1 match drawn and 1 match won, but this time the victory went to Hertha at Union Stadium, which many say took the rivalry to the next level.
Hertha beat Union at the Outer Försterei 2-1. That was the one with the famous Christopher Quiring quote. It makes me want to vomit seeing these Wessis celebrating here in our stadium. I think that quote summed up how the newer generation was starting to see the derby. He was born in a unified Berlin. He was born after the wall came down, and he was talking about Wessis.
However, that season saw Hertha go straight back up again, and they've stayed up since, building a solid foundation as a mid-table Bundesliga side.
That's actually insane, though, that like the next generation was like using those terms for an era that they didn't actually exist in. But that does go to show how big the rivalry was starting to build up. I like that. I like that. It transcends. It's transcending time itself at that point.
As a mid-table Bundesliga side.
Went down, went up, went down, and went up, and stayed up now.
And so the possibility of another derby was really on Union to go up and meet Hertha in the first division.
Yeah, we came close a number of times. Never played in the qualification game, so close in the sense of 4th, 5th, 7th, something in that range.
But then came the 2018-2019 season, where Union made their best push for promotion yet.
We were the only team that was undefeated in all of Europe in the first top 2 divisions until, I think, January or February. So that was when we thought, this is serious.
It all came down to the final match day, where all they had to do was beat 14th place Bochum.
Your only fucking job is to score against a team that's way beyond you. You know, we are way better. Just score 1 goal. And then we go up in the first division.
They didn't do it.
But in typical Berliner style, they messed it up.
Man, fucked up.
It was just weird because you're like, Bochum, you're like mid-table. Why are you even fighting? Just like give it to us, you know. But
okay, when you say it like that, it sounds like we did not a good job, man.
Let's be honest, I remember I was watching. I was thinking, how have they fucked it?
And then
playoffs. Luckily, they had a playoff against Stuttgart to fall back on. In the first match in Stuttgart, it ended 2-2, which meant they came back to the Försterei only needing
a low-scoring draw at home. The last 15 minutes of that home leg is one of the tensest experiences I've ever had in a football stadium. The last 30 seconds of it were one of the most joyful experiences I have ever had in a football stadium.
You drew 0-0?
We drew 0-0.
Wow. 0-0 draw of my life.
The scenes post-match had to be seen to be believed. And in the stadium, the fans themselves had helped build. Union Berlin were going to the Bundesliga for the first time ever.
Everybody
fourth to Bundesliga.
They were crying like babies. The culmination of everything, all these years of misery, everything they have given, everything that they'd done for their club, whether it was the rebuilding of the stadium, whether it was actually rescuing the club itself. Everything was leading up to this point where they could play in the Bundesliga. It meant so much for them as fans because they were part of this success as much as the players on the pitch were. And the thing was, the players on the pitch realised this. The players celebrated with the fans. The fans didn't celebrate with the players.
There is pictures of me, half naked, in the middle of the stadium, with a fucking bottle. Singing songs, and the only thing that I can remember is repeating and repeating and repeating, fucking Bayern München has to come here in this stadium.
And so it's in 2019 that Berlin will finally see the first ever first division derby between Union Berlin and Hertha
That
Berlin.
is insane,
and whilst the mood ahead of their
man.
second division derbies may have just been awkward, the vibes ahead of their first ever meeting in the Bundesliga are a lot more tense. It started with a campaign by Hertha.
Hertha was like trying to make the game on the 9th of November.
So November 9 this year is the 30-year anniversary of the fall of the wall.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a celebration of Berlin coming together.
Two teams, two parts of the city that were once divided by a wall and by many divisions in football, meeting for the first time ever in the first division on the anniversary, the 30th anniversary of the fall of the wall. It's perfect, no?
I mean, come on, man. You bro, this sport is mad. You can't write stories like the ones we've seen with this sport. From Once in a Lifetime Argentina to the stuff with the Columbus Crew to this to the Real Betty one. Like, bro, you cannot write better fiction than some of these actual stories that have happened through this damn sport. It makes absolutely no sense how this sport is this goddamn dramatic, and I love every second of it. I love it. I love it.
I mean, I agree personally, but
Thanks to God, our club said no.
You didn't want to play on that day?
No.
Union disagreed. They didn't want it to be on the November 9th.
For us, playing on that date would be making it a bigger event than it is.
Then there was the Union video.
The Union video of their shirt reveal, their kit reveal at the beginning of the season with an Union fan in an Union kit walking under the bridge at the Olympiastadion station, our stadium, at Hertha's stadium station. You could see all the blue and white graffiti everywhere, and again, that was something that people picked up on and they were like, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Like,
but beyond the token exchanges from both clubs, it does feel like there is still something else that's adding to this rise in tension between both sides.
The upcoming derby, there's way more tension in it.
This one coming up.
Yeah, for sure. And I can't even tell you why.
It's not about politics.
What is it now, 30 years? It's not about East-West.
It's not about any fucking politics.
It's not necessary to talk about East and West Berlin because it's one Berlin.
It's not about history. I mean, there's only 4 competitive derbies to talk about.
Yeah.
Put simply, it's about football culture in Berlin.
You know, if you play like FIFA with your brother?
When you play football, FIFA on PlayStation against your brother.
And he's your family, you fucking love him?
You call him a son of a bitch.
Call him a fucking son of a bitch?
Even though it's your brother.
Then you want to beat him and everybody gets angry?
You know, and you might, when you overreact, you take the pad, you throw it against the fucking TV.
And you don't talk to each other for like 1 hour after the game? But then again, he's your family.
But after the game, you're brothers again. And I think that's how I see the rival.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Between them red and whites and us.
That makes
And
sense.
speaking of both sets of fans, you really get the sense that they both want this rivalry. They just don't want it to get too bitter.
I would much prefer a friendly rivalry.
Mir hier wünsche ich mir eigentlich eine gesunde Rivalität.
I don't want everyone to be holding hands, singing Kumbaya at the derby together.
Jeder kann den anderen ein bisschen anfrotzeln, so sagen, oh la la,
But at the same time, this city has seen enough divides to last. It's
I respect that.
Aber
I respect
eigentlich ist
that.
Freundschaft, ja.
However, that doesn't seem to be the consensus amongst all fans.
Aber es ist wahrscheinlich nicht mehr möglich.
The older people experience something about this hate thing and politicians, East-West.
And actual real hatred.
Real hatred, and the younger people never experience something like that. And so,
Weil die Jungschen, die entwickeln ja so einen Hass gegenüber alle anderen. Und dann
the younger people want to create something similar to, let's say, Man C and Man U.
The younger generation are already, you know, more significant.
ich bin zu alt für den Scheiß.
I'm too old for that shit.
I mean, it is 2019, and the most thing you do is trying to create yourself an enemy that you can spit up on.
So then you could almost argue that the wall in the head, at least for this rivalry, isn't in the older people who experience the wall, but the younger generation.
and that's the thing, the people in that stadium on Saturday will be mostly the younger generation.
They're both aware of the fact that a lot more people are watching this match than had been watching the match in the second division, both nationally and internationally. So I think there might be a sense amongst both sets of fans that this could be the first battle in an upcoming war.
It is very funny, not funny, but it is interesting hearing how a lot of the older people who have seen all these different divisions and whatever Say that they don't want to really see any more division. They much prefer it to just be friendly because Berlin has seen enough, being divided, being separated, and you just kind of got people that are just kind of making it up as they kind of go. They really want to see something a little bit more aggressive and violent. That's funny. Stuff like that happens in America all the time, where people try to really push towards these things that really do divide us up more. When a lot of older people don't want to see that exact same stuff happen again because they've already kind of been through it. It's unfortunate, really. It really is just like a sign of like, how do I put it? It's an unfortunate thing because at the end of the day, it should really all be about a unified Berlin. It makes sense, but it's just like, it's like wanting problems for the sake of wanting problems. You know what I mean? But it makes sense though, man. We see a lot of that in this generation, my generation and the generation after me. That there are a lot of people who have never experienced actual turmoil. But they for some reason want turmoil. They want aggression. They want this fracturing for some weird reason. I don't know if it's just like things being pushed in a weird way or what, but we see a lot of that here. We see a lot of it all over the world. So it's just interesting seeing it even in football culture like this. It just seems like it's just kind of happening for no reason based off of the way everything's just been described right here. So.
All right, boom. Match day in Berlin. The first time they've had a derby in 7 years, and the first time ever that it's been in the first division, at least between Union and Hertha. And despite this city having a lot going on at the moment, culturally and politically, all everyone's talking about, especially the papers, is this. The main thing they seem to be focusing on, however, which is quite interesting, is actually the history of friendship here. Berliner Courier says today, Berlin wins. You've got Berliner Zeitung harking back to that famous friendly where 80,000 fans sat together to celebrate the wall coming down. But beyond those headlines, you start to sense that kind of tension that's going up. Probably put best here by one of the Union players, Trimmel. Where I live, Hertha posters don't last long. The article itself on the friendly, it says here, it was obvious that this feeling of togetherness eventually wasn't going to last, and both sides were going to go their own way. Not just, obviously, in divisions, but in feelings as well. And I think we've really seen evidence of that this week. I mean, a lot has been happening while we've been here. Firstly, we noted it on Wednesday, where Hertha hosted Dynamo Dresden. At the end of the match, as Hertha won, instead of celebrating going to the next round, a very discernible chant from the entire Ostkurve. And it was sung even louder at the training we went to yesterday. One of the most incredible trainings we've ever seen.
Damn, this is for training.
Thousands of Hertha fans rocked up to urge their beloved team on to winning the game today. It's evident that this derby has progressed into something more than that is perhaps that PlayStation rivalry we've heard from fans before.
Yeah.
It is evident that this is the kind of rivalry now where you turn up in your hundreds of thousands 24 hours before a match to show how much it means. It is evident Berlin doesn't just have a football scene, it has a proper football rivalry going on. And how that manifests today, we're just going to have to wait and see.
They got the riot gear out.
All right, well, you can hear from the drums and chants, you can smell from the smoke, you can feel from the atmosphere, Hertha are turning up.
I just cannot get over how serious this shit gets, bro.
We have 2 hours
but it makes
before
sense.
kickoff. There is not a free seat already.
If somebody scores, this place is gonna explode. Oh my god. Match temporarily suspended? this is why I love watching documentaries over just random highlights and clips of things, because I can watch 1,000 videos showcasing ultras and hype moments, but without knowing enough history about particular clubs, the novelty of that just wears off after a while. I love watching this and then being able to go and see like a video later on showcasing more about like the fans or the ultras or something with that context in mind. Not that I don't like watching those hype moments and those highlights of those highlight reels of, you know, amazing goals and all this stuff, but having so much more context makes it all the more exciting for me, you know?
That antagonistic moment that's going to happen, it seems inevitable thanks to fan culture and just how derbies slowly progress. Can that be avoided in this or not really?
I hope so. If anything, the history of this city can teach us is that divides can be overcome. However, football tends to work in a different way to the rest of the universe.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're just setting shit on fire.
It will probably reach a point where one set of ultras or other will do something completely antagonistic, and that may well be the starting shot on a much more defined rivalry.
Well, first of all, let's clear up the myth. Berlin has a football culture, and I think now we can say it has a proper derby. I mean, the myth was busted before the game even kicked off, where in a stadium built by the fans in the middle of a forest with 3 grandstands that are all standing, you've got an ancient Olympic tifo that covers 3/4 of the stadium and an away bay that has perfectly split their colors into blue and white with choreographed jackets so that they're mimicking their club badge. If that didn't convince you, then 5 minutes in, when the roof almost caved in as the ball hit the crossbar, a firecracker shot across the stadium, then 10 minutes in you must have, as we had a second round of tifos, 2 rounds of tifos before half time. And if the first half didn't do it for you, then the second had to. I mean, you had 2 pyro shows in both the home and away section, so strong, so epic, they smoked out the entire ground. So much so, the match was temporarily abandoned, and when the smoke finally did clear, the Hertha fans in that incredible blue and white choreographed block had all changed their jackets around to now mimic the stripes of their shirt. And then came that last 10 minutes where we saw how intense this rivalry had become. First, you had both sets of ultras reveal the stolen items they had got off each other. And then came the goal in the last few minutes, which turned things even nastier. If I'm honest, we were kind of hoping to see a special derby which kind of celebrated the unity of the city after everything it's gone through, but evidently it's not going that way. The Hertha fans, who'd been so incredible, started shooting the pyro onto the pitch, and a few even deflected into the stands. And at that point, well, I think most fans don't want to see that because it puts so many other people in danger. That had a direct consequence in the Union home end, where the ultras, they were on the pitch. They couldn't have that happen in their stadium. It's about as intense as we've ever seen. The game had ended, but the feelings hadn't. And so for a rivalry whose direction seemed to be unclear, well, I think after the events of last night, it seems to be taking a discernible direction. Personally, I would have loved to see a unique, united rivalry, and I think many others would.
Yeah,
but that, at the end of the day, is for the people of Berlin to decide. But whichever and however way you'd like to see this rivalry go, I think we can all agree on one thing. Berlin, just like every other European capital, has a proper football scene, and now they've got a derby to match it.
I really did wish we could have seen like a more united scene, only because it just like, I'm saying this with the full knowledge that I know I'm an outsider, that I know that I clearly don't know enough about modern German culture and German football culture. I'm just basing everything that I saw for this video, so just take everything, obviously I say that with a grain of salt, but it seems like based off of what the older people said and what we've seen so far, it feels like the aggressiveness of this derby is being kind of forced and pushed. It doesn't seem like this is the direction that most people kind of wanted it to really go in, especially that older crowd. I want to hear though from some of you in the comments that are modern football fans, and what do you think about this derby? For me personally, it would have been amazing to see a more unified kind of derby. We see a lot of these rivalry derbies, these ultra situations and stuff in a lot of different videos, but I was really hoping we could have seen like a more united thing, but it is what it is, you know. Is there anything else after this? Or are we gonna finish this with more German techno music? Well, in any case, that was Welcome to Berlin, Mother Effer Derby Days, Berlin by Copa90. Once again, delivering an absolutely fantastic cultural documentary in addition to a football documentary about another city, country, and their football culture, man. This is a treat to watch. Thank you for the suggestion, guys. If you enjoyed this reaction, let me know in the comments down below by leaving a like on this video, and consider subscribing because I post a lot of reactions here. I will be traveling tomorrow, which will be the day of this video going up, to watch my own state's football derby, funny enough, between Columbus and Cincinnati FC, which in its own way is kind of forced. But the thing with Ohio is we have our little rivalries here and there, but everybody in Ohio loves Ohio. So I'm excited for it. I'm going to try to interview people and get different views on different things. And yeah, man. But overall, I enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Hope you have a great day. Peace.